There are a lot of stories I've heard of survivors who have been in the hands of psychopaths. And in the moment near an imminent death, they used empathy to arrest that psychopath's attention and get them to tap into the wounded child self. And something awoke in them. Their spirit, their childhood innocence, this thing that all of a sudden wanted to protect the victim, that the monster inside wanted to destroy. Hi everyone, thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful for the fact that you all are watching these videos. You're encouraging me and supporting me in the comments section and telling me about what you're going through and what's happening in your life. It really helps me to feel like this work is valuable and to stay connected to knowing how to create stories that will help empower people that are going through real life situations and need to know how to process things, how to look at things from a different angle, and how to really tune into that healing journey that will help them become more empowered and more dynamically intelligent over time. So today I wanted to talk about comments that sometimes come in around whether or not it's a stupid idea to be empathic to a narcissist. Now, I understand where people are coming from when they share their personal truth and their stories about why they feel it's really dumb to be empathic to a narcissist, and they're not wrong. You don't want to open your life up and yourself up and become vulnerable to someone who doesn't have ethics, who doesn't have the ability to self-regulate, who will want to take more than is fair to you and may want to manipulate you and may enjoy causing you chaos and insanity. So they're not wrong in this line of questioning. In fact, it opens up a really important conversation that I want to have with you and kind of help you understand the nuances of when it is safe to use empathy, how you should use empathy, and what empathy is and isn't. So let's talk about this comment that came in. Narcissists don't hurt like other people hurt. When and if they realize they're hurting, they will do their utmost possible to make you feel their pain. Being empathic to them is the stupidest thing you could ever do for you. How many people have lost decades of their life trying to understand being empathetic towards people like this? I mean, that is very true. And I think anyone who's had a narcissist in their life for a very long period of time, much longer than in hindsight you wish you would have, can totally agree with this comment. And you're not wrong. There is a huge risk in being empathetic to someone that is narcissistic. I want to be clear that as human beings, we have a diverse tool set to utilize. Just because we are empathetic to someone in one moment in time that it may be appropriate, it doesn't mean that you're always going to be empathetic for everything they do. It's important to understand that human beings are dynamic. And sometimes people are running subconsciously on patterns, belief systems, stories, and programs that they're completely unaware of. They may not always be the same person in different situations. Sometimes there is a victimhood. Sometimes there is a wound. Sometimes there are needs. And depending on what is actually happening in that moment or in that story or experience, will really be up to you to determine whether empathy is a valuable thing to offer someone. Just because someone is narcissistic doesn't mean they don't hurt. It doesn't mean that they can't be victimized. It doesn't mean that they can't be experiencing a wound that is so painful for them that their only coping tool is to hurt another person. It's important to understand that by removing the ability to empathize with someone, you can hurt them even more in times when they really need a friend or they really could use compassion. And even narcissists have those moments. And I know that they're really good at putting up a front and making the world think that they don't have pain, think that things aren't hard for them. You know, it's a lot of work to hold up masks and to be something that you're not. It's a lot of work to hide your wounds, to disconnect yourself from your emotional contentment and love and ability to trust and have intimacy and authenticity with yourself and others. And so there are moments in even a narcissist's life when empathy can really change them and get their attention in a very different way. The truth is that narcissists crave empathy. They crave to be understood, to be nurtured, and to have intimacy. They don't know how to do that in a healthy way. It's difficult for them to trust that people are sincere. There are different reasons why narcissism occurs in human beings, and I'll link to some of those videos above that explain these different reasons of why a person becomes narcissistic. But it's important to understand that just because someone does show these traits of narcissism doesn't mean that they will always try to hurt you. In my experience as an empath, I have seen how they do have bad habits and patterns that they can't seem to shake loose of, but they will almost suspend those in certain moments when someone is very authentic with them and cares for them and is very compassionate. They can almost want to sometimes not hurt that person and almost protect them. Now, when we're talking about people who have violent tendency disorders, psychopaths, people who are pathological in their narcissism, people who have sadism, yes, those people are going to be very dangerous to somebody who's going to open up empathy to them, because their modus operandus is to destroy the thing that they feel they don't have access to, the love inside of themselves. When someone doesn't have love inside of themselves, for someone else to feel compassion for them and love towards them, it's very difficult for them to bear. There are a lot of stories I've heard of survivors who have been in the hands of psychopaths, and in the moment near an imminent death, they used empathy to arrest that psychopath's attention and get them to tap into the wounded child self, and something awoke in them. Their spirit, their childhood innocence, this thing that all of a sudden wanted to protect the victim, that the monster inside wanted to destroy. So there's something really powerful about empathy. Empathy is something that the dark, wounded self oftentimes does want to destroy, because there's a deep love and friendship and affinity inside of someone that's using empathy. Empathy is kind of like an experience that says, you really matter. I love you and I care for you and I want to be here for you in your time of need. And it's difficult for people that have wounds inside of themselves that have grown to speak and control their lives to sometimes experience empathy, because what it does is remind them of those wounds that needed tending to, that needed tenderness and love and nurturing. It reminds them of potentially some of the worst things that they've been through in life and survived with these terrible coping tools of wanting to destroy others. Empathy is a very wise tool, but it requires you to be able to weigh the circumstances and the risk that you're taking when you're using it. It also requires you to be able to have an inner dialogue of knowing how to moderate that empathy. You want to give enough that a person knows you're sincere and actually feels cared for. But if you give too much, it can attract a type of stalker obsession from certain people. And for certain people, it can wake up that craving, the desire that they have to feel like someone cares, and they can become attached in a very unhealthy way to you. I've experienced that several times in my life, and it can be very scary. What you realize is that this person has a deep craving to matter to someone, to receive the attention that's one-on-one, that's loving, that's nurturing. And while that is not a dangerous thing, it's the amount that they crave that feeds an obsession and a danger. So this commenter is very right. In a situation where you have someone who is literally starved for attention, affection, personal one-on-one acknowledgement, you can end up in a very dangerous situation if you give empathy to this type of person and you don't know how to create boundaries for yourself. Boundaries are very important if you're going to give empathy. It's important that you understand how much to give, who to give it to, when to give it, and where to kind of withdraw that empathy and allow this person not to become a dependent upon you, but rather to have felt that they were important, but that they are in charge of their own personal growth. Narcissists have a difficult time taking control of being in charge of their own personal growth. They find it easy to be ambitious and grow financially and materially, but allowing themselves to be vulnerable and to feel for other people is just something that they have not put the time in to develop, because they're so busy with that hunger wound that's inside of them. They're so busy feeling this bonfire of hunger, and it never goes away. But there is something that's very valuable to acknowledge about giving empathy to a narcissist at the right moment in time, in the right scenario. And if the scenario is not of high risk to you, it doesn't pose danger, if this person is not in control of you, if this person is truly in a moment of need for understanding and compassion, then you have this opportunity to allow them to see that not everyone in the world is out for their own selfish gain. There are people who care. There is love in the world. There are people who can be trusted. There is a path that they gave up on that calls for them, that wants to call them home. The path of love and understanding is the pathway home. This empathetic, loving, caring path is a path they long for, but they have discounted because they surround themselves with people who are like them, who are searching for how to make meaning in their lives with meaningless ambition. And it's a spiritual hole, if you will. This insatiable appetite that they live with is such a hunger that craves authenticity. It craves love. It craves understanding. And they don't realize that if they would just be with that, if they would just be with themselves, if they would just be with the truth that's coming from inside, if they would just be with the scariest things in their life, the emotions, the feelings that they hold, the things that they've repressed and left behind, that stuff would begin dissipating and it would transform their life in the most miraculous way. But there's a terror of that. And the longer that a human being stays away from nurturing themselves, the more that they become terrifying to others in some ways. More of a threat, more of a cold, disconnected, calculated human being. Just because some people in the world are walking in this wounded way and they're unaware of it, it doesn't mean that you should give up your emotional intelligence, your ability to know what right action is, when and where, who to give what, something that could change their lives. You never know who has never experienced love, has never experienced someone caring about them, has never experienced true friendship and someone actually just really wanting to know how they are, not wanting something from them, just really caring about them. I've experienced many people who have never truly had someone care about them. They don't know what it means to have someone who doesn't want something from them to actually care. And when they have experienced that, It feels like time stands still between the two of us. It feels like they want to be there forever. The part of them that has all their tool sets and weapons and ambition, it just falls to the wayside. And they want to be in that space. They want to be in that space of empathy, because empathy is love. It's friendship. It's brotherhood. They miss that. There is a deep longing for that. Giving up empathy is like giving up your ability to have emotional intelligence and know how to apply your wisdom and your heart in the world. I don't think we would have made it as a tribal culture for thousands of years without empathy, without some way to feel and know what another person suffers in our tribe and know exactly what to give them to help them. It's a language. It's a language of the heart. And the heart is extremely wise. It somehow always knows what is needed and what is true about a person and a circumstance. And it knows what to do in each moment. It somehow knows more than the mind many times. So instead of thinking that you should never give empathy to a narcissist, consider using your emotional intelligence and analyzing things from a safety perspective and from a human perspective and from a heart perspective. If you have this ability to go into these different perspectives and understand, am I to be of service to this person right now? Is there something speaking? Is this a moment that this person is opening up to me? Maybe they've never opened up to anybody else before. Maybe it's very unlikely that they would trust anyone else, but you're just the person. Then that's the time when empathy just could change that person's life. Don't be afraid to take risks. Don't be afraid to suffer. There are going to be people who will take advantage of your empathy. I've had a lot of people in my life take advantage of my empathy, but it wasn't something that I lost. I gained. Even if the experience was wasted on someone who was insincere, I gained wisdom in the practice of using the true deep love and care I have for other human beings. I gained a lot of wisdom through that practice. Instead of thinking about how to protect yourself from suffering, understand that suffering is also a learning tool. It's a part of living and growing and learning. And don't be afraid of that. I have learned to thank God for everything that I experience, even the suffering. Because in the suffering, there is so much growth and truth and transformation. And empathy is a transformative tool of love. So don't be afraid to use it, even if a person seems narcissistic. Just be wise and analyze things from an emotionally intelligent perspective. I hope this perspective helps you to understand that it's sometimes dangerous to give empathy in certain circumstances to certain narcissists, but some narcissists crave it and it can change their life. They can begin seeing that there are authentic, genuine people in the world, and maybe they need to change. Maybe they have missed out on a more beautiful, enriched journey. And all people can change. It just sometimes takes them the ability to see someone filled with the light of love for them to desire to have that too. I hope this message finds you well, and I hope it fills your heart with the hope and support that you need in your growth and healing. I love you all so much. You mean the world to me, and I'm so grateful that you're here with me on this journey. Please continue leaving comments. If you agree or disagree, those are both wonderful. Just let me know where you're at in your journey and what your opinions are. It helps me to know how I can discuss these things with you. Thank you so much for being here. Be well.